The Scott Ryfun Radio Show.
Hello. How are you today? Yeah, that looks better. You can see the South Georgia 40 over there. That's good. Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Wednesday, middle of the week. I named this Hawmps Day. Do you remember that movie? I saw that movie at Lanier Theater. Hawmps was a movie about a cavalry unit that was on camels. No, nothing. Joe Camp was the writer-director of that. Joe Camp, and it was weird because if you look at Joe Camp's career, it was pretty much Benji and then this one movie. Like all the Benji stuff was Joe Camp and then that movie. Don't know why. Anyway, Paul McClellan early on gives us the thumbs up and we appreciate it. We can't get the day started without that. Garrett Mosley just says, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Leak. Good morning, Greg. To Midgard, the All-Father. No, we didn't do Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thursday. Then you can do all that. Top of the morning from Effingham County, 33 present, getting in some steps before walking into work. That's good. Red 129 standing by. Missing doll. Yeah, very, very sad thing. Something was up, and I think everybody was kind of aware something was up. And then, of course, the big announcement. And, different people choose different paths when they know they're heading off stage. Dolly kind of chose the Norm path, but she was a lot more high profile than Norm. So, and she didn't do it for 11 years or so like Norm did, but 69, check it in. Happy Wednesday. We'll talk about that this morning though. We've got a little something there. Let's say good morning from 188. Happy Dog Day and RIP Dolly. Crazy. Next name storm may be Dolly. Yeah. That was sent to me yesterday. It's kind of a bonjour. Okay. There you go. Good morning. Good morning, Scott and crew from number 90. Again, hope your birthday went well yesterday, Mr. Blocker. Dwayne says good morning from 180. 25 is in the house. Mr. Kaysen back from his big cruise. What up, James? Let's see. Good morning. I'm sure Steel Magnolia's got watched quite a bit yesterday. And my wife watched it last night in honor of Dolly. Rest in peace. There you go. Good morning. Good morning, all. Sheila, good morning. And Sheila's husband, Dan, brought me this shirt last night. They do this kind of, it's funny because like when I want a t-shirt made, I pay somebody to make a t-shirt. When Dan wants to get a t-shirt made, he makes a t-shirt. There are different types of people in America. There are the people who can make things and the people who can't make things. The people who can make things make America great. I can't make things. There you go. 170. Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. I hope, Wesley, hope you're better. You had a bit of a bout with the emergency room. I hope everything's going well at this point for you. Linda says, good morning. We definitely welcome you, ma'am. In 1883, the eruption of Krakatoa began its paroxysmal stage. It was the deadliest volcanic event in recorded history. 36,000 deaths. This eruption would not have been allowed under the Green New Deal. Of course it wouldn't have been. Of course they wouldn't have allowed that. That would have been terrible. Would have been Mount Pinatubo style. Good from Carolyn. Happy Hump Day from West Georgia. Justin gives us a good morning. Aaron gives us a good morning. He was out at trivia last night. Ricky says good morning. False alarm. Glad to hear that. And good morning and evening from 165 to all the Ryfun ruffians. All right. So it is Wednesday morning. Hope everything's going great for you. Had a big night at trivia again last night at Max. And we just had a blast. People should show up for that thing. We do want to say, and it was shortly, I was at my office at Public Safety Complex, which, by the way, I sat and had a nice talk with Commissioner Duncan yesterday. Bob Duncan stopped by the police station, police department, and sat in my office and we chatted, 15, 20 minutes about stuff. It was good to have him there. And one of the things he said was, do you do interviews on the stream? And I said, oh, yeah, we do interviews on the stream. We've had Riley on and, that kind of thing. And we plan to have Riley on again. And I said, would you like to be on? He said, oh, yes, I'd like to be on. So Bob Duncan will come on at some point. I think other county commissioners will at some point as well. It continues to look like it's January before we're back on the radio. So, and I know a lot of people just thought that like I'd leave the station and then like a week later I'd be somewhere else. And it's just not unfortunately, it's not the way contracts work. Although I will tell you a little funny really quickly. I did got a couple of little funnies in there. I turned iHeart down for the full-time gig to return to the old job plus. And the job and the responsibilities were interesting, and they were plus, but the money was not plus. It was exactly the same money. But I turned that down, but I didn't turn down doing high school football. And so they had to rehire me as a part-timer to do the high school football. And one of the things we talked about, was I cannot have a non-compete. I'm not going to have a non-compete for this. If you want me to do the football stuff, that's fine, but I am not going to have a non-compete. So they sent me the paperwork yesterday, and I'm reading it over, and there's a non-compete. I had to send it back to them, go, guys, we're not doing this. We're not doing a non-compete. Because essentially, if I work through high school football season, let's say Brunswick High just bottoms out of the playoffs or even gets through 2 rounds, I'm into June before I can do anything on the radio, and I'm not doing that. It's bad enough I'm waiting as long as I'm waiting. So they had to redo the paperwork, send it to me, excise the 6-month non-compete out of the new deal. And the funny thing is, too, I've been gone from there like 2 months now, and they had to do a criminal background. Try that again in English this time. A criminal background check on me. Like, well, we took your job away, so we are concerned that you went and robbed a bunch of banks in the meantime. I don't understand that, but anyway, I don't ask these questions because it's not healthy for me to ask these questions. All right, so. Let's take a look at what we have to discuss today. Again, the news came yesterday. That's where I started with all this. The news came down yesterday. Dolly Parton had passed, and I knew this because Rose, who is what I like to call the shadow chief of police, she kind of runs the department. I heard her office is right across from mine when I'm at Public Safety Complex, and I heard her say, "Oh no, Dolly Parton died." Now, understand, I am used to being like the first one on the scene with news. I am used to being the first one to know or see anything. And I heard her say that and went, oh, that can't be because I haven't seen that yet. I was wrapped up in a project that I'll probably continue to be wrapped up in today to try and do some things to improve the content on the Glenn County website. But I also, by the way, had somebody tell me that other people were remarking that it's a conflict of interest for him to be on the radio and work for the county. And it can be, it could be, but one of the things I make sure to do is that I engage in full disclosure. I actually say that I do that. So, I don't just not say it and then start taking positions, based on things that are of note in the county. And you don't know where I'm coming from what goals I'm trying to advance or whatever. That would be the difference. Anyway, so she said, I heard her say, oh no, Dolly Parton died. I went, wow. And it clicked for me. I was like, this is entirely logical that she could have passed because she has been canceling a lot of events lately. She's canceled a lot of appearances. And then she did that video. She's done a couple of videos to say, hey, I'm okay. And they don't really seem, it seems like, there is something more to it. But you never can tell in the video because she's always she always was made up. You're not going to see anything with her hair because she always kept her head shaved. I don't know if people knew that. She kept her head shaved. She always wore a wig. It was always a wig. Part of her shtick was that it was a wig. She would joke about the wigs, actually. If you ever saw a concert performance of hers, that kind of thing. So it was entirely possible. So I start Googling. Nope, I can't find anything on it. And about 5 minutes later, I finally found. You know what I did? I went to Twitter because Twitter is where a lot of stuff breaks. And I found her nephew doing a video basically announcing the passing of Dolly Parton. And we find out last evening that it was a short bout with cancer. And I'm no medical expert, but that kind of says pancreatic cancer to me. And again, I am not a doctor. I don't play one on the radio. None of that. But when I think of a short bout with cancer, and it could be anything realistically, but I just think pancreatic cancer because I've just seen how swiftly it moves in people that I've known who've had it. It doesn't play around. And she was obviously aware of all of this the entire time and just decided it was not going to be a public thing, and she was not going to do a big public farewell tour. And look, I think how people handle that kind of thing is up to them. And I don't think there's a right answer or a wrong answer. There is doing it admirably and not doing it admirably. And I think you can do it a number of different ways admirably. And, she decided she was not going to share it with the public. That was her choice. She still died with dignity and she was still Dolly. But I think she didn't want the pity. And, Norm did the same thing. Norm had cancer for 11 years. He was fighting it before he passed and never told a soul. Like, people who were close to him were angry that nobody told them. He didn't tell anybody. And then you've got Ben Sass, and Ben Sass again is doing the exact opposite and the exact 180, and that is admirable. So that's why I say, there's no rule book for how when you're going to die, there's no rule book for how to do it, but you can do it with dignity or without dignity. And I think, and there are different ways to do it with dignity. And I think Dolly did. I think, like I said, Norm did. But I think Ben Sass is as well. I think Ben Sass is doing something that's amazing, which is, he's making us look at ourselves on this last little go round. And he's making us say, we have to savor and experience our life no matter what. So again, there's no, there's a bunch of different ways. There's no one right way to do it. But the sad thing, obviously, the big take on everybody, from everybody, and it's an accurate take, is, Dolly Parton was kind of the one person in our culture that everybody could kind of agree on. Dolly Parton was kind of the one person in our culture that, we don't like anything together anymore. We don't share anything together. We don't have a unified culture anymore. But for some reason, nobody didn't like Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton did a heavy metal album. I think that was one of her last albums. She did a heavy metal album a couple of years ago with like Rob Halford from Judas Priest. And which kind of makes sense because she also was kind of a gay icon too. That's the thing too. I mean, like, everybody liked Dolly Parton. And she was good and kind. I hate that word kind. I really do. But sometimes it's applicable. But she was good and kind to everybody she ran across. And I almost feel like we are culturally going to devolve now into civil war once the mourning of Dolly Parton is over, because now there is nothing that we all agree on anymore. So it could be rough after this. It could be very, very rough. All right, let's take a look at the comments here. Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday from Bobby. On this day, 2026, there was a large eruption in my home after I cracked my TOA on the coffee table. Very nice, very nice. Good morning, South Georgia 40, number 485 here. He is going out to engage in random acts of capitalism, I promise you. Shaz Bazaar, shame on you for being late to the party. Muriel says, good morning. Dolly can do that to tell us she's okay, but Mitch can't do any videos in months. Yeah, well, Mitch is not an entertainer. I mean, let's be honest. Mitch is not entertaining. Let's tell the truth. The liberals have gone right to work claiming Dolly as their own. And again, that's the thing. Liberals claim everything as their own. It is frustrating. It is annoying. It is, everything is there, and again, as a Star Wars guy, understand, by the way, again, Dan Zinda did this for us, and fantastic work. Maybe more things to come in the future. If you want one of these, I'll bet he could get you one. That's what I'm saying. It will cost you, sure, but I bet he could get you one. Anyway, the liberals have gone right to work claiming, they claim everything. As a Star Wars guy, it drives me nuts. Because they, like, everything on the agenda now, and I was sent an interesting analysis yesterday, and I don't think I have it in the prep this morning, but it was a good piece about how, they're just like an empirical overview. I think the Roach sent this to me yesterday. kind of an empirical overview of where the parties have landed. The Republicans, because you always hear from the left, oh, those Republicans have gone so far to the right. They've just gone extremely far to the right. I can't believe how far right they've gotten. And my argument has always been, take a look at their platforms from 45 years ago and tell me whose platform has dramatically changed in the last 45 years. And it ain't the Republicans. You've gone from the extremes in our party want $15 an hour minimum wage to $15 minimum wage is not enough. You've gone from the extremes in our party say Medicare for all is the solution, but we don't believe that. But now Medicare for all is the solution. You heard the audio from Obama in 2010 yesterday that I played on the stream, where he talks about illegal immigrants and the fact that they should not have a place in our society. And yet today they are fighting to make sure illegal immigrants get a place in our society. It was just the last election cycle where we were told that Democrats absolutely 100% do not want abortion up until the moment of birth. And yet Maura Healey in Massachusetts just signed a bill legalizing abortion up until the moment of birth. So, tell me who has gone to the extreme. And it's a good analysis of that fact. But anyway, the Democrat platform now versus 50 years ago, not the same platform. It is much more extreme. It is much farther left. And but they will claim, and again, as a Star Wars guy, it drives me nuts. They will claim that the intentions of that film 50 years ago were everything they're supporting right now. And that's insane, because most of this was considered ridiculous by most people back then. And still considered ridiculous by a lot of people anyway. Good morning, it's Hump Day, which has different meaning if you were a dog. There you go. All right. Even Bernie has spoken. Bernie has spoken on Dolly. Wow. Alex Trebek as well. Yeah, Alex Trebek went out in an interesting way, which is he kept doing the show. And he kept looking good. And he kept on keeping on. And Trebek is one of those guys that he had millions and millions of, you got to understand the Jeopardy gig was a pretty good gig, because you worked 3 months out of the year and you got paid, I think his salary was probably 16 million. And he worked 3 months out of the year. And then he had 9 months to do whatever. Because they'll tape like a week of shows every day. And they'll do that for 3 solid months. And then 9 months to go party. It's like a reverse school year. You have summer work and then 9 months of vacation. Many lessons learned yesterday trying to save 2 kittens. $350 later, we found out the 2 kittens we didn't want to have more kittens were both males. Oh, congratulations. Well, you did learn a lot of lessons. Kittens are tough. You can't just eyeball them like you can a dog. Ronnie Smith says, good morning. Good to see you. Good morning, South Georgia 40. It is Hump Day. It is morning. Don't remember the heavy metal album. She did a music video with Hulk Hogan. No, yeah, she did a metal album with I'll see. Now you messed me up. I'm gonna have to go. This, and it was just, it was recent. It was in the last 2 years or so. That's how I think it was it was called Rockstar. There it is. Oh, it was 3 years. Sorry, 2.5 years. It was November 2023. And she had World on Fire. She had Magic Man by Heart. She did We Are the Champions, We Will Rock You. She did Wrecking Ball, like a metal version of Wrecking Ball. She did Open Arms. She did Every Breath You Take. So that's not really metal, I guess, but she did Rockstar. She did with Richie Sambora. So that's bordering on that. I Want You Back with Steven Tyler. Did a cover of Purple Rain. Did Peter Frampton on there. Hate Myself for Loving You with Joan Jett. Where is her piece with Rob Halford? There it is. Bygones with Rob Halford, Nikki Sixx, John 5, and Dolly Parton. So half of Motley Crue, a fifth of Judas Priest, and Dolly Parton. And she did one with she did Heartbreaker with Pat Benatar, Neil Giraldo on there. Just and Freebird and just, so it's a hard rock album, we'll say. How about that? But yeah, so she did the pretty heavy album for her. Anyway, good morning from 18. Red Blue, RIP Dolly, Red Blue thing. Yes, Commie Association. Don't recall hearing True Blue American and colonist Blue Jackets versus the Redcoats. Many reasons, and the GOP lost that. Oh, yeah, you're going back to yesterday's discussion. Yeah. about when the flip happened. You always hear about the parties flip. Oh, the Democrats became Republicans, the Republicans became Democrats, which there is, again, no factual basis for that. Warren showed up at the last South Georgia 40 meetup we had. Warren showed up and was trying to peddle that line, and I just kept saying, no, that's not true because of this. No, that's not true. And explain Al Gore, explain, all of those Democrats, explain the Kennedys. How did they not flip? For some reason, then later he called the show and denied that I won that argument when, he couldn't answer any of my arguments. I was like, good morning, getting ready to hit the road for Disney. Have fun with that. I guess we went for a little bit in July. We haven't been in a park. Today is August the 26th, and I'm glad that I now have the crawl going down at the bottom of the screen because otherwise I would not have known. Oh, you know what? Somebody got perturbed at me yesterday because I don't have the screen. Whoop. That was bad. I'm gone now. Where'd I go? Let's go back to this. Okay. Someone got mad because I leave border out here, but I like the border. I mean, we can ditch the border, but I like the border because it shows some of the background, shows City Linear Bridge stuff. I don't know. It gives me a chance to put a little logo up here in the corner. Anyway, we have not been in a park since late December of 2024. And people think of us as always being down there, and we have our reasons. But have fun, because it sounds like you're going to have a blast. We have finally decided we're going to take a trip next July. We go in December every year just to go for our anniversary, but we have not made any park plans in December. But next July, we think we're finally going to break the whole cycle. But it's been a while. Let's see. She rose above the culture. You're talking about Dolly there. Yeah, absolutely. Good morning from the soup. I'm walking in Liberal County. Liberal County. Instead of Liberty. That's pretty good. David says, good morning. Hi, how are you, sir? I will not embarrass you with high school pictures of yourself again. Although that was, for high school pictures, that was not a very embarrassing high school picture. Let's be honest. Pretty solid, again, because you don't really look any different. Let's see. Jane Mansfield. Thank you very much. What's his name? Pastor Pussycat Kill. That's who that is. What's his name? Russ Manning. Thank you. Not Russ Manning. Russ Manning was a comic strip artist. Russ Meyer. That was his line from Seinfeld. But I see where you're going. If writing dates includes the weekday in a weekday, month, date, year format order, you must place a comma between the weekday and month and between the date and year. Look, I save my commas to use them in an Oxford fashion. This is what I'm telling you. Is Dolly the last universally loved person? I think she is. I think that's going to be the problem. We're all going to die. It's a matter of when and how. With that understanding is how we live that counts. Isn't there a DP song at Dolly World that's supposed to release in the event? Oh, that would be Dolly. Okay. Oh, sorry about that. You scared me for just a second there. I don't know. That seems like a myth. I remember hearing years ago that there was a secret Monty Python script that, that right before they died, they would make this movie. And of course, there's two of them dead now and they never made the movie. So I think that one's also not true. I think that just seems to be a common folk myth for some reason. 75 says, good morning. The guy that played Black Panther also went out quietly. I was shocked. Yeah. He did. And then they messed him up at the Oscars. Terrible. They, I don't know if you remember this or not. Chadwick Boseman was nominated for an Oscar the year he died, and he died, and he was making movies, by the way, while he was battling stomach cancer. He was making Black Panther while he was battling stomach cancer and that kind of thing. But he died, and the Oscars actually flipped everything. And usually they end with Best Picture, And they decided to go ahead and end the Oscars this year, put Best Picture before that, and end it with Best Actor because they thought it was going to be this big send-off for Chadwick Boseman. And the problem is with the Oscars, you have to vote on it. And so here they flip everything, so because it's going to be Chadwick Boseman's big night, and they're all crying about Chadwick Boseman all night. And then it's time they close out with Best Actor instead of Best Picture, and the Best Actor is Anthony Hopkins. Messed up the whole thing. And yes, people went away pretty mad about that. Good morning, 181. Is Glenn and other counties north of Brunswick have people that use green and purple to hide their leftiness? I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. I missed the show yesterday. I had to become a plumber. I did watch the show yesterday on YouTube and liked the show. Good. Keep liking it. Keep commenting. That's a good thing. Border good. Secure and keep your border. Absolutely. Grew up in Tampa. Okay. Dolly was the epitome of a woman with class and never forgot where she came from. And she came from nothing. She came from absolutely nothing. And, just made of herself a big time business person. She did for others and gave and gave and gave. She is an example of how to live your life, minus the wigs. But yeah, absolutely. Grew up in Tampa, Florida. July in Florida is awful to stand at a park. Our big trip is always, here's the thing. Our big trip down there is always July because, ratings run usually from mid-March to mid to late June, and then early September to early December. So Mrs. Rifen is at school pretty much nowadays, the start of August, she's at school. And she's out of school at the end of May. But I am doing ratings till, like this year, they went until June 24th. So the only time we really have where I can go and she can go is that one little month, July. And we make the best of it. I mean, we have some great trips, but it's I'm not going to tell you that we don't sweat a lot and that it's not really hot, and that, as we get older, we've decided, sometimes a midday nap is not a terrible thing. What we do a lot down there now, again, as we get older, is we go down there. We're there the second they open and before, like as early as we can possibly be there. And we wait to get in the second they open. And when you do that, a lot of things are just wide open to do as you please. And then we have lunch. I'm an 11 o'clock lunch guy historically, mostly because, traditionally I've gotten to work at 4. And so by 11, the restaurants are opening for lunch. You're like, all right, I'm going to be there right then because I'm going to have lunch at the beginning of my lunch period. And so we have lunch at 11. And then right after lunch, we just go back to the room and we just hang out and rest. And then we come back dinner time and close out the parks. And that way we've missed the really hot part of the day. We've missed the worst lines. We've missed the kids having the meltdowns. And, it's all for the better. Let's see. Good morning, Mr. Rifen and my fellow members of the 40. Number 111 here is an overcast day in Guyton. I'm sorry to hear that. Very sorry to hear that. Let's see. Can you cycle through different background photos? The tiny village of Brunswick, Man House, Brunswick Housing, the free washing machines at the... No. Even if I can, no. I don't believe it. She will have released the song to see how much fans love. Yeah, sure. No, not going there. All right. Dolly Parton is what he meant. He meant Dolly Parton. Green or purple signs to hide lefties. Oh, you mean campaign signs? Oh, okay. The problem with that is that very often if they do something like that, it will match a hair color, and then the leftiness is given away. It's very easy. Okay, there you go. Oxford comma humor. One of my favorite follows on Twitter is there is an official account called the Oxford comma, and that's what it is, and it's pretty fun. Let's see. It's supposedly at the resort in a glass enclosure. I saw the glass enclosure when I went to the resort's hotel years ago. So, like when she died, they were supposed to break the glass and play the song. That's very odd. But The problem is, like, formatically, it runs in line with a lot of other, we say, popular myths. It just is structured the same way as a lot of those. Some famous person has some great work locked away to be released in the event of their death. So I don't know. Good morning. Still in Oklahoma cold snap day. Only 101. Oh, gross. We actually, Joy, I don't want to make you feel jealous, but our high today is only going to be 88 here. But we are going to rain again as well. Early afternoon nap is my new happy hour. Yeah, I know. It changes over time, doesn't it? All right. So speaking of the weather, let's do this really quickly. We got two blobs we're paying attention to. This little disturbance, which is nothing now. This little white X up here, this was kind of threatening to become a little something and maybe hit a little bit of land up here, Newfoundland or somewhere. Done. It's toast. This guy, on the other hand, let's take a look and just isolate on him. And what we see is there's a 70% chance of this guy becoming a storm system, a tropical depression, and maybe more in the next 7 days. Now, again, I checked the 48-hour forecast. It is not going to become anything in the next 48 hours. But in the next week, it has a very strong chance of becoming a real honest-to-goodness storm, which makes sense. Why does it make sense? Because Labor Day is coming. It's always Labor Day. So we're paying attention to the blob. We're watching the blob. We will see what happens with the blob. If the blob strengthens, if the blob threatens, we will be here to let you know. I will be here. And, for those of you who have not yet let other people know about this stream, this may be a really good reason why you should let people know about the stream, because that blob, you just don't know. You just don't know. And so what I will say is what I always say: don't panic, but make sure your kit's ready. Your kit should have been ready in June anyway. So let's get into some of the news today. For example, this story, Michael Hall in the paper of record. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, which is funny to me that it's a story again, because it's almost the exact same story that it was a couple of weeks ago, which is the proposed revisions expand marsh coverage and shading, irking environmentalists. And they are irked. You can ask them, are you irked? Yes, I am irked at this. Have you ever actually heard anybody use the word irk other than talking about Russell? Have you ever heard anybody actually use the word irk? And if you do a crossword puzzle, irk comes up every time. By the way, we haven't talked about this in a little while. Crossword puzzles. You want to talk about something that is ridiculously left-wing liberal? Crossword puzzles. I'm not talking about the concept of crossword puzzles. I do try to do crossword puzzles frequently. My grandmother did them. I didn't get it at the time, but I kind of do now. Keeps your brain going, keeps you active, keeps your synapses making connections. But a lot of the times what you'll find is they try to normalize and mainstream liberal left-wing ideas, concepts, literature, LGBT issues, that kind of thing, with the clues in there on a regular basis. Almost every day there will be 2 or 3 clues that are just like, why is that in there? Other than I'm trying to shove this down people's throats, which again is not a thing you want to say when you're dealing with LGBTQ issues. But anyway, so the proposed rules are irking environmentalists. And what I will say about this is what I have said before. The DNR and the Board of Natural Resources, these guys are ridiculously cautious. They err on the side of caution constantly and consistently. If these guys are walking around going, you know what, we think this is okay, then I think it's going to be okay. But you have to understand that an environmentalist default position is that humans existing irks environmentalists. Human activity irks environmentalists. I mean, let's look at the list of things that irk environmentalists and let's say to ourselves, okay, we're all right. Capitalism irks environmentalists. Humans having nice housing irks environmentalists. Malls irk environmentalists. Pavement irks environmentalists. I don't have a problem with environmentalists being irked. Sorry. I don't mind them. I don't mind irking them myself. But the point is, they are going to be irked by this. If you were to propose 1 extra inch of coverage for a dock, they would be irked. Don't worry about being irksome towards an environmentalist, especially when you have, again, the battles that we have had with like red snapper season. Very tasty. And just know that if we have those kinds of battles, you're talking about governmental organizations that are very, 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 very cautious, that very, 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 very much err on the side of caution. I don't, for the life of me, see the opposition to this as anything other than opposing human progress and, again, the existence of humanity. Sorry, I just don't. I saw this in the paper of record today, and I thought, gee, Georgia Chamber, thanks for joining in finally. You know, it's interesting. Eric Erickson has been making the case lately, and I like Eric a lot. Personally, I like Eric a lot, and I like a lot of his takes. This take of his, I'm not crazy about, which is that the reason the data center problem is what it is because the tech giants are arrogant. The tech giants just were arrogant, and they told you AI was going to come steal your job, and now they're telling you the data centers are fine. And you know, he's like, I'm in favor of data centers, but the way they're being done is wrong because the tech giants are being jerks. They're being arrogant. But it says to me he's not hearing all the arguments that are being made, because it literally, what I'm hearing is, and I'll say this, one thing that I've noticed, it's been subtle. And remember me, I'm paying attention to the way things are said, the way people express things. And I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but the term data center is not used much anymore. It is now AI data center. I actually think that's an improvement. I don't know which side of the fight actually came up with that, but I've noticed that much more frequently, they don't say data centers, they say AI data centers. And again, it may be the people in opposition to them who are saying, let's make sure we include AI because people hate AI. Or it could be that they're saying AI because a lot of the early scuttlebutt, to borrow a word from my buddy Roe, was that the data centers were there and they were collecting all of your information, and the government was storing your personal information in these data centers. And none of that's what that was. None of that's what this was. But it didn't stop them from saying it. So to me, when you say AI data centers, you kind of change the focus of, is this actually the storing of your information that's the issue, or is it something else? But either way, the Georgia Chamber is now going to go out and counter the misinformation and disinformation about data centers. And I would say, guys, you're probably 6 months too late. I mean, where it became a really big issue for us was during the Brantley fire, when that's when you saw. And I feel bad because I usually see these things coming, and I missed this one. This was a thing that was bubbling under the surface, this little propaganda campaign from, yes, China against data centers here. And it really exploded in Brantley when the fires started, and they all started screaming, oh, they're just burning down all of this land so they can buy it up cheap and put data centers all over Brantley County, which has happened to whom? I mean, honest to goodness, I said this at the time when this was going on. If all of that land doesn't get bought up and turned into data centers, are these guys all going to apologize? Because I don't know of a one that's apologized yet. But they looked like idiots at the time, and they look even more like idiots now. But yeah, thank you, Georgia Chamber of Commerce, for getting involved. Also, I'd like you to make sure the barn doors are closed, but you can do it after all the animals get out. That's fine. I swear. This is disgusting to me. Scammers targeting families of Glenn County inmates. And I don't know if you've seen this thing or not. Sheriff's office put this out. And people have fallen for it. And I guess that's part of the thing too. When you have a loved one in jail in the Huskow, it's a distressing time. It's emotionally distressing. It's emotionally draining. And then these people call you on the phone and go, if you want to get your guy out of jail, you got to give us a gift card. Well, let me just go ahead and tell you now, law enforcement of any stripe, but particularly we'll say the sheriff's office because they run the jail, they're not going to call you and ask you for a gift card. They're not going to call you and ask you for a phone card. They're not going to call you and ask you for Bitcoin to get your loved one out of jail. They're never going to call you and ask you for money at all. They're never going to call you and ask you to give them information. Nobody is, and they, this is a variation on a scheme that's gone on for years, where they're calling and say, oh, you have a traffic violation, which, that was the thing last year or earlier this year, where they were sending the texts out that you had a traffic violation and that you better pay up or else we're going to come get you. But they will do that. I had one call me one time and I started laughing at him. He's like, oh, we are going to come arrest you. I was like, oh, okay. I'll be waiting for you. your cops, bring donuts. And of course, they never did come to arrest me. We are going to come and arrest you if you do not give us a gift card. Heather Farley hits upon a truth and doesn't even know it. The marsh looks fine. That may be the problem. That is a typical, and we're talking about the situation with the docs a little bit ago. There's a typical environmentalist response right there. Oh, the marsh looks fine. That may be the problem. Oh, okay. This was funny to me. I'll go to this in just a second because we got a lot of comments building up. I want to see if we can get in on some of these things here. Let's see. It's not for when she dies. It's a time capsule that's supposed to be open in 2046 called Dolly in History. Okay, so it's not a song that's like we'll break open the glass on the song and it's like goodbye everyone. No, okay. It's a time capsule. Speaking of which, I gotta devote some time to the time capsule. I've got to devote time to my time capsule. Our time capsule that was buried in 2012. No, 1982. It was supposed to be dug up in 2012, and we didn't dig it up because our teacher died. Died like within a year of burying the time capsule. But yeah, we've got to do that. That's got to be a thing, and I want to document it too. I want to document the whole process. It will be interesting to do. Let's see. Oxford comma memes are some of the highest forms of humor in the world, along with Blazing Saddles. There you go. Blazing Saddles on a list of movies. I mentioned this yesterday to Mrs. Rifen. It's like, I heard you talking about that on the stream. It was one of those listicles that bothered me. It was 15 hit movies that could never be made today, and it just really annoyed me because it was like Gone with the Wind. Can't make Gone with the Wind today. And but the number one movie was Ace Ventura. Because somehow I guess I've never watched Ace Ventura all the way through. Full disclosure, I'm relatively unspoiled on Ace Ventura stuff, but apparently at some point he thinks he's a girl, and they're like, it's cruel to the trans community, which again is not a community. But yeah, just dumbly. And the other thing was, it was 15 movies that could not have been made today, and it was like 20 something things on the list. Carolyn says hello everyone. We say hello back. Marie, good to see you. Come to see Rick Jackson. I have people in town. I have the Fantasy League draft is Saturday. It is a very, very big deal amongst my peer group. We are all gathering together Saturday. It's an extravaganza. And it is always the Saturday before Labor Day weekend. So yeah, I am not going to make it to see Rick Jackson Saturday, sadly, because I've got the Chancellor. The Chancellor will be staying at the house that weekend. My buddy Dave and Raymond usually stay at the house during the that weekend, and this year should be no exception. The Chancellor will be getting in, I think, about lunchtime Friday, so I think he and I are going to grab some lunch then. And but yeah, Saturday is the big day for the big draft. So yeah, sadly, that's pretty much going to be my entire day Saturday. So what you're saying is that Hurricanes are anti-Marxist. They want to put out the grills and squash festivities of that proletariat celebration called Labor Day. I'll let you have that one. Have little feet because nothing grows in the shade. There you go. All right. And again, Dolly Parton, I think we're saying there. I heard you were going back on 12 AM 1290 with Bill Edwards. I heard that too. I saw OC post that. And I don't want to go in conflict with OC because I love OC, but I don't know anything about that. I don't know where that came from. What I will say is this. I guess it's entirely possible they could be selling 1290. I don't think so, because iHeart just tends to not sell stations, though I think they probably should. I feel like if you can't staff the stations, you probably shouldn't have the stations. But no, and let me just say this: love Bill Edwards. Bill does not know this because I still owe him a phone call. But yeah, I mean, I have plans when I launch here to get him involved in some of the stuff we're doing. So whether he likes it or not. So, but you know, when everything went down, he was one of the people that called and checked on me, which again I appreciate. And you know, and he's like, I know where this is coming from. I know what this is. I've been there, and so but I don't know anything about that. I don't. I've not heard anything. I don't know anything. I'm skeptical again, like I said, because iHeart is not in the tradition, the custom of selling radio stations, but they could. And there could be a discussion happening. And, you know, OC is a radio station owner, so he may be in the conversation, and it may be that this is a thing he wants to have happen. But OC has not said anything about it to me directly. And OC sends me notes from time to time. I mean, you know, we exchange words from time to time, but not about that. and again, not opposed to it, but just, you know, the conversation has never been had. I'll just say that. It doesn't mean it's not true, but it was a surprise to me to see that on Facebook, because that was the first time I'd ever heard that premise. Today is the son. Happy birthday. So your son was born the day after you. That's kind of neat. I read an article that said the anti-data center movement is backed by China propaganda to prevent competition. It's to prevent competition, yes, but also AI is opening up a lot of frontiers in a lot of places, and it's not just in the business world, but in the government world and in the military world, where it's opening up a lot of frontiers. And there's a reason why Pete Hegseth has been kind of haggling with some of these companies over some of the contracts they have to do AI work for the military. It is becoming a national security thing, AI. And China does not want us to be as far advanced militarily as they are. Therefore, I mean, you can see where that's going, right? China's trying to set us back in AI, because if they don't set us back in AI, we're going to beat them, because freedom and capitalism will always win. And they don't have either of those. So yes, that's where the anti-data center movement is coming from. That's where it is literally Chinese propaganda. 100%. Close, the villain turned out, well, yeah, so you can't have a bad guy be part of the T community. So obviously that's an evil film. Okay. Let's see. I stand corrected. I knew it was something. I wasn't sure exactly what it was. That's okay. We do that. Let's see. Kind of prophetic talking about, we were talking about Steel Magnolias just yesterday being one of those movies that is the chick flick that guys are just like, not for us. Tropical storm, if landfall will be Trump's fault. Always. My husband said that Archie Bunker could never come back, especially because he says, that's the word I'm not going to say. Archie Bunker. Well, the thing, it's interesting. I don't know if you ever heard Nixon's take on it, and there's been some other people. But a lot of people on the right think that, look, there's a lot of bigotry on the left, and they oftentimes will disguise their bigotry as, we're trying to help, we're trying to aid, we're trying to make people better, trying to do things for people. And it's really, as we say, the soft bigotry of low expectations and that kind of thing. There's a lot of sentiment. I think Rush used to say this actually too. A lot of sentiment that Norman Lear, when he was doing that, he was getting himself out there and blaming it on conservatives so that he could tell jokes like that. And, you can say, oh, those conservatives, they're terrible people, but the liberals were the ones writing the jokes. So figure that out. And trans community big enough to get a city charter. It doesn't exist. It's not becoming. It has been for a few years. He who computes fastest in future wins the war. Sure. And AI is a big part of that now, or what we call AI. It's not real AI, but It's a thing. Oh, James, heading up to Royal Cinema tonight to check out the big screen for the first time on a Wednesday. Yeah, if you have not been to the Royal Cinema in Pooler, it is really an experience. And look, I love the Georgia Theater Company. I grew up with the Georgia Theater Company, one, not two, but one. But I'm not. I would be lying if I didn't say I really love that Royal Cinema in Pooler. The big. I've only been, of all the screens they have at Pooler, I've only been to the IMAX they have. They have the tallest IMAX in the world at the Royal Cinema. Actually, I think it's tied with another one, but it is, there is no taller IMAX in the world than the one at Royal Cinema in Pooler. And it's a really neat experience. What is on that screen right now? Are they doing Spider-Man or the Odyssey? I guess we can find out. Let's take a look. If you haven't been to Royal Cinema, you really should check out Royal Cinemas in Pooler. It's really neat. Let's see. Oh, they're doing a Ghost thing. Oh, Ghost. Is that tonight? Ghost? Okay. Oh, interesting. And they're doing that in IMAX. Ghost, they're interesting. Yeah. And then the Odyssey will be showing there still. And Spider-Man has not been able to take over that IMAX. So yeah, it's the Ghost performance tonight at 6. I got you. Too Big to Rig on the IMAX. That's going to be a thing. Ghost, they're interesting because they look really scary and their message is really terrible. And but their music is actually kind of ear candy-ish. It's not bad. Let's see. What scares people about AI is they think their millage rate will go up 100%. Or their mileage. That's right. Their mileage rate. Let's worry about the mileage rate. Do you plan to go to Pooler IMAX for Avengers Doomsday in December? I don't know. I will probably sneak into because, again, as we found out with Spider-Man this time around, a Friday release really now comes out Thursday at 2 or 11. When did Spider-Man? No, Spider-Man came out at noon. That's right. So, the Avengers will probably be out Thursday early during the day sometime. And, I don't have the freedom now of schedule to just go in the middle of a day to go check out a movie. Can I? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I would like to, more so I want to see the Odyssey in it because the Odyssey was entirely shot in IMAX, the proper IMAX aspect ratio. So, don't know. Very Kiss vibe. Yeah, they do, but they have like a storyline, which is a thing that I think Kiss probably fell down on. Ghost has kind of an ongoing story, which Kiss didn't do, but probably should have, because every time they go do like a comic book, everybody's got a different take, and some of them are terrible. Let's see. Royal Cinema is awesome. When a few weeks ago, the Odyssey was, yeah, the sound is great. Yeah, that Royal Cinema is fantastic, and that Odyssey on that is the thing I think I would want to watch right now. Ed, by the way, did my house yesterday. Pressure washed. I think it looks great. What I saw of it looks great, but it was pouring rain when I got home, so I didn't get to really check it out. But the stuff I saw was beautiful. It was gorgeous. What would it take to start a new radio station? Is it even possible? Start one from scratch. License, construction permit, all of that has to go through the FCC. It is a major headache. There's a lot of money involved. Tower, transmitter, traffic people, staffing it up, sales, which is again why I want no part of that. I want no part of it. I think long term, I think people who own multiple stations can do fine, but just starting up a new radio station out of nowhere, it's not like a shop, where you just say, well, I order this stock and I rent the shop and that's it. I have my business license. I'm good. South Georgia 40 meet up at the IMAX for maybe. We'll see. Good morning. Thank you. Good morning to you as well. 195 says we're fostering 2 kittens from the Humane Society. Folks there are amazing. Never a dull moment. Oh, I'm sure. 2 kittens too. That's one of the things that somebody sent a note to the social media page of Animal Services the other day and going, why aren't you pushing kittens as much on your social media? And one of the reasons is because there are so many organizations that will just go And, like No Kill will go and take 30 cats from there and go find homes for them. For whatever reason, it's really, really easy for a lot of these organizations to go grab cats and take them in bulk quantities. So it from time to time gets kind of desperate, but the real desperate need is for dog adopters. I mean, there is a need for cat adopters. Don't get me wrong, there's tons and tons of cats, but it just seems like there are more outlets to send cats to, or more organizations that are willing to take cats and find homes for them and that kind of thing than there are for dogs. I think dogs are just a little more difficult of a sell because, I mean, look, I've had cats. I'm not the biggest cat fan personally, because I really believe, and I've said this for decades, if a cat were big enough, he would kill you and eat you. Not my cat, I know. But wait until Wayne Zelinsky's shrinking and enlarging ray gets put into effect, and we'll test that out if you would like. I don't think you'll like the results. But anyway, I've had cats. And the thing about cats is, as a pet, they're easy. They can ruin your house, but they're easy in that they just go to the litter box. You don't really have to take them out. You don't have to walk them. You don't have to, you put their food out. They eat when they're ready to eat. It's not like a dog. A dog is much more involved. You got to get them out. You got to get them the exercise. You got to take them out to use the bathroom. You got to feed them at certain times. If Sweetie goes X amount of time during the day without eating, she starts barfing up bile and stuff. So she got to make sure she's got food on her stomach all the time. It's just, cats are less labor intensive. This is as a guy, again, who has had both. Cats are a less labor intensive pet. And I imagine that's probably why it's a lot easier to just deal them off, than it is to do, dogs. So I think that's why you see more dogs advertised, more dogs mentioned, as far as the adoptability thing goes, because there's a greater need for the dog adoptions. Anyway, I thought this was funny the other day. Angel Reese and a big headline, Field Level Media. Angel Reese grabs WNBA record 26 rebounds. Look at that Angel Reese. Look at her go. Man, what an achievement. I don't think they understand what this says. Because what this actually, if you've watched any WNBA, as I have unfortunately done in recent days, the reason Angel Reese was able to grab 26 rebounds and a WNBA record is because there were so dad blame many missed shots. I mean, understand, a rebound can only happen when people miss shots. So I don't know that I would brag that we set a WNBA record tonight. Look at all of these rebounds. She had the rebound because so many people were so terrible at shooting. That's what they had. It just is the case. The dogs that stay the longest at the shelter seem to be pit bull. I think there's something real about that. And I will tell you, the other day, we were trying to find a home for Gaston, who is now Toby, and who seems to be doing great. I didn't check on him yesterday, but I've been checking on him the last couple of days. It seems to be going well. And but when we were trying to find him a home, and I mentioned to a friend of mine who was looking for a dog, and he just literally said, "No, he's got pit bull in him. I'm not touching him." And that is and unfortunately, what you have at the shelter very often is dogs that have some of that in them, maybe a lot, maybe a little, and there are a lot of people who just will not have anything to do with it. I know there are people who love their pitties, but at the same time, yes, 2/3 of all fatal dog attacks are pit bulls. Now you can say bad owners or whatever, but it's all happening with that one breed, and that does send a bad signal to everybody else. But it's a shame, because you are going to get dogs in the pound that do have that in them, and they are going to be tough to adopt. And I don't want to sugarcoat it, but I will say this: most of the time they have that in them, but they have a lot of other stuff in them too. And you just have to evaluate the dog individually. And does the dog, I mean, I've been around pit bulls that were perfectly gentle and wonderful and pleasant, and I've been around pit bulls that were not nice. A lot of it depends on how they're raised. But yeah, some of them are on a little bit more of a hair trigger than others. But you have to evaluate the dog and its personality and whether that personality works for you. And I think you gotta have to put that pit bull thing into the background because, you know, it's that's what you're gonna have there. That's what you're gonna have there. They say cats are like teenagers, dogs are like babies. That's pretty good. Indoor cats are stinky poopers. She's rebounding her missed shots. Exactly, Dewey. Exactly. I owned a pit mix when I was a child. We raised him as a puppy. I was attacked out of nowhere. See, that's not good. And again, 2/3, and that's just being realistic. And I know, again, there are a lot of people who will defend their pitties, and I get that. And I get the pictures of them curled up in a chair and everything. But the reality is that one type of dog, and I don't want to say breed because I've been argued into the ground that it's not really a breed per se, but that one type of dog is responsible for when you think of all the different types of dogs there are out there, that one particular kind is responsible for 2/3 of the fatal attacks. There is something there. But at the same time, a dog like Gaston is just a good dog, sweet dog. You have to evaluate it individually is what I would say to people. Let's see. Certainly you aren't saying DNR and Coastal Resources Division aren't aligned with NOAA, one of the most left-wing organizations on the planet. I don't think I said that. I'm saying like they're not aligned with 100 miles right now. That's what I'm going to say. U.S. government has banned pit and pit mix on all military inspirations for a reason. Google it. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, we missed your squad last night at trivia too. But anyway, Angel Reese set the WNBA rebound record. And again, why did she set the WNBA record, rebound record? Because there were tons of missed shots to show and a rebound. So that is why. Thought this was interesting. The mayor jumps on yesterday, of course, was his state, Mayor Van Johnson in Savannah. That's his state of the city address that he does every Tuesday on the interwebs. And, he's going on about the flock stuff. And the fact is, again, flock is a tool that can be misused and abused. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. The reality is that you have to police it. And, right now you have to really police it hard. Over time, you will have to police it. You still leave the safeguards in place, but, you don't have to hit them as hard because you shouldn't have as many people going and abusing it after a while. I think, once you establish with these guys, oh, by the way, what you're doing is illegal and these guys are going to get arrested and everybody who does this is going to get arrested. I think you're going to be in the clear on this one. I think you're going to be fine. This will pass, in other words. Not the arrest, but the fact that, because that's the thing I keep hearing is like, we keep arresting cops for abusing this. Yes. Because I don't think they quite understood the tool they had. I think a lot of departments didn't have policies and procedures in place. Glenn County, I was talking to Chief Sipe the other day, and he's the guy who was behind the policy and procedures. When Scott Ebner, who was the chief, said, we're going to get the cameras, Sipe is the one who went, we got to have policy. We have to have a specific policy. We can't just get these cameras and have no policy. So Ebner's like, yes, you're right. Let's craft a policy. So they crafted a policy. A lot of these departments didn't have a policy, but the law is still there. But again, my belief is that you'll see a lot of this for a while, and eventually two things will happen. A, you'll weed out the bad cops, and B, people will just understand that you can't abuse it or else. Darlene Graham actually won. And it's weird because I feel like the South Carolina seat is typically generally a safe seat, and she may be living off the legacy of Lindsey Graham because he's very well loved in South Carolina. But guys, I'm telling you right now, she's a terrible candidate. She's not a good senator. And again, when they appointed her and I started questioning her credentials, a lot of people were like, well, she served on a lot of boards. But when she got in those debates, she showed a couple of things. One, she's been sitting in the Senate for, a little while now. She hasn't learned anything. Two, she knew these questions were going to come up at the debates. Why would you not prepare for them? How would you put yourself in a position to say, well, I don't really know a lot about foreign policy, but I like the military? Awful. Do I hope the Republican seat is retained? Sure. But do I think she's going to be a good senator? No. And look, I'll eat my words if 20 years down the road she retires as one of the great senators of all time, but I'm not seeing it right now. Think back to Bulls. Rodman was praised yearly as a rebounder. Were champion Bulls missing that many shots? No, but he was the one guy, and he was usually rebounding somebody else's missed shots. The point is, people against the Bulls, rebounding is not just your own. It's getting the shot, period. And I would say, yes, the people the Bulls were playing were missing a lot of shots. A lot. Looks like we got Darlene over here in South Carolina. You do. Absolutely. They were avoiding Clark on purpose. Well, yeah, her coach really just needs to go. Really, really just needs to go. But, I can't threaten to withhold my affection for WNBA. Like a lot of people, withhold their affection for NFL and stuff. I can't withhold my affection for WNBA because I have no affection for WNBA. So it's kind of a problem. Counter tariffs from Canada expected to raise low country home costs. Yay! Just pointing it out. Tariffs are bad. Repeat after me. Tariffs are bad. Tariffs have been demonstrated to be bad. We lowered the tariffs on Argentinian beef. Why did we lower the tariffs on Argentinian beef? President Trump did it. He said why. Why? Did anybody remember? Anybody? Class? Bueller? Anybody remember why we lowered tariffs on the beef? Anybody? Bueller? Oh, see, the comments section was full until I get into the tariffs thing, and all of a sudden the tariff stuff goes away. If you tell me why the president said he was lowering the tariffs on that Argentinian beef. Anybody? No? Nobody's doing it? Okay. Well, I'll just go ahead and say this was Friday that he did this? It was last week. It was Thursday or Friday. But the president lowered the tariffs on the Argentinian beef last week. Why? Because he said he wanted to lower prices. So if lowering the tariffs lowers prices, what does raising tariffs do? Think about that one for a little bit, please. I'll let you ponder it. United States Supreme Court handed President Donald Trump a partial victory in his effort to drastically scale back mail-in voting. The Monday ruling threw out a lower court ruling from a federal judge in Boston, which shot down a March executive order Trump signed that changes the way people receive mail-in ballots. His order required the Department of Homeland Security to acquire or compile state-by-state lists of eligible voters by citizenship, then directs the U.S. Postal Service to only send out mail-in ballots to people on those lists. 23 state attorneys general sued to block the order, but the majority of justices said because it hadn't gone into effect yet, the lawsuit and the decision from the lower court were pointless. So it looks like they'll actually be able to implement this, and then they can challenge it. It's interesting what he's doing, because the way the deal is structured, I'm always concerned about the federal government interfering in elections. The way the deal is structured is it's all in the delivery of the ballot through the mail system. And it's an intriguing legal concept. I don't know that it will withstand scrutiny, but they said basically it's got to be a thing. And then once it's in effect, we see it, then you can say, because you can't be a party withstanding and say, this thing has affected me negatively when it didn't happen or it hasn't happened yet. A couple of months ago, a guy filmed Mayor Johnson driving his government PL car down the middle sidewalk at Forsyth Park to the fountain. What? Oh, I missed that one. Arthur Sanders, I'll bet. I would be willing to bet. I've never understood the loophole why beef from overseas can be repackaged and sold as American beef. I do not know. Do not know. Graham's definitely a bad candidate, not knowledgeable, hasn't tried to learn. And that's the thing that gets me. Why has she not tried to learn? Why was she not prepared for the debate? That's the part that really bothers me. Like, this is your job now. This is your career. You're getting paid $175,000 a year now to do this. You're getting all kinds of perks, including franking privileges. And yet, you can't be troubled to learn the job. That bothers me. Say it, Alan. Say it loudly. Say it proudly. Tariffs are nothing more than a tax on the end consumer. Correct. Big companies aren't paying tariffs. You're paying tariffs. Big companies are paying in loss of sales. That's how they pay. Anyway, the Dolly. We mentioned Dolly earlier already. Thought that was a nice one this morning. Let's see. One dumb tariff. It's about the Canadian tariffs. And you know, I think Jim yesterday was arguing about the Canadian tariffs. And this is kind of a piece on some of the tariffs that Canada does have. They're super, super, super protectionist in a lot of aspects. But you know that if you're like a follower of the media, you know that like they have for broadcast, they have Canadian content rules. Like if you're a radio station and you want to play the Billboard Top 40, you can, but you have to intersperse Canadian artists in there or else. You know, if there are no Canadian artists in the top 40, you got to do something about that. And you got to throw in a little Bryan Adams but you know what happens is some of these obscure Canadians artists get played. You have no idea who they are. SCTV, the Bob and Doug McKenzie. Who I love, Bob and Doug McKenzie. Have long loved Bob and Doug McKenzie. I am, as I think I mentioned the other day, I'm a big SCTV guy from way back. And Bob and Doug McKenzie were intended as a parody of Canadian content rules. You know, that we have to have, you know, Canadian content with Canadians being relevant to the lifestyles of Canadians. And that's where Bob and Doug McKenzie came from. They're a takeoff on that. Canada, very protectionist place. And again, you wonder why they're not as economically successful as places that are freer. Again, tariffs are bad, kids. Tariffs are bad. I talked about this the other day, how the studies now are starting to come out. The data and the information are starting to come out that there was no Gaza famine, which, again, I said on the program many times. But if you needed a reminder, if you needed a refresher, the data are really coming out in a big way right now about the lack of starvation in Gaza. It wasn't real. It was never real. It was never going to be real. There was a lot of footage of like high-end restaurants operating in Gaza and doing great and people partying and having a good time. Free Press did the article yesterday. At the rate of 0.5%, Gaza has one of the lowest rates of acute child malnutrition in the region, according to an analysis by the Free Press of data from the World Bank and the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification IPC, a UN-affiliated hunger monitoring system. I'll say that again. Gaza has one of the lowest rates of acute child malnutrition in the region. So they're not only not starving, they're doing better than most people around. The researchers also conclude that about 12% of the children in Gaza had stunting or impaired growth and development that is the result of poor nutrition. That's less than half of the region's 26% stunting rate, according to the latest report on child malnutrition by UNICEF. Again, the region, 26% child stunting due to malnutrition. Gaza, 12%. Boy, that's some genocide they're cooking up over there in Gaza. Today, UN functionaries are encountering a very different problem in Gaza: obesity and excess weight. Now, this didn't happen overnight like the second the ceasefire started. Understand, that takes time. Obesity and excess weight, which affect a combined 4% of children under the age of 5. And that's to say nothing of the clearly well-fed adult Gazans who miraculously resurface only after the latest round of fighting with Israel is concluded. That's not exactly true, by the way. In this piece by Noah Rothman, we saw really, really heavy women out there decrying the attacks on Gaza. A researcher who's overseen teams collecting malnutrition data in the Horn of Africa remarked that she'd never seen the emergence of obesity and excess weight in a place that was declared only a year earlier to be suffering from famine. How did Gaza go from being officially classified as a famine-stricken area to having, in less than a year, one of the region's lowest levels of severe child malnutrition? Humanitarian agencies have failed so far to answer that fundamental question, and one organization is still fundraising on the claim that starvation rages in Gaza. We are confronted with one of two possibilities. Either Israel has pulled off the greatest disappearing act in human history, or the famine we were supposed to obsess ourselves with in the spring of 2025 never happened. I know it's shocking that they lied, because about 90% of their claims turn out to be lies. But it happened again, just so you know. Camden, by the way, look at this. Glenn missed this somehow. Traffic stop made on I-95 South, which means they did pass through. They did pass through Glenn. Glenn didn't get it. But Camden got it. Big bust. And let's see, I've got, oh, that's not the right way, is it? There we go. Deputies in Camden seized a substantial stash of marijuana products and arrested a driver during a traffic stop on I-95 South on August 19th. Sheriff's office said Deputy Lasco initiated the traffic stop early in the morning after observing a vehicle speeding down I-95 South. Oh, see, it was early in the morning. It wasn't during business hours. That's why we didn't get them. Upon approaching the car, Lasco observed that the driver and passenger appeared nervous and smelled a heavy scent of marijuana along with air freshener used to mask it. After that, he busted him. So good job on that one, Camden deputies. Excellent work. But again, it's like they'll go away and 1,000 more will come up. It's darndest thing. Love Second City. Also love Not Necessarily the News. I remember Not Necessarily the NNTN on HBO. Yeah, great. Rich Hall was on that. That's where the Sniglets started. He was on that. He was also on Fridays. But yeah, Sniglets became a really, really, really big, like, international sensation. There were books and books and books of Sniglets. Stuart Pankin was one of the main guys on that too. I remember Stuart Pankin very, very well from that. Stereotypical misinformation from the left is, what do you mean? They do that all the time. Yeah, they do. They do it all the time. Hey, Holy Ghost Trucker's with us. Good to have you here, sir. Good to have you here. And I see you changed your profile picture too. What does it say? Wait, hang on. What does it say there? What does his profile picture say? Can't read that. Oh, it's the vaccines? Okay. We're on the vaccines thing. Okay, interesting. I was going to ask about the Sniglets. Love them. Yeah, that was Rich Hall's thing. And Rich Hall had, I don't know how many Sniglets books there were, because I hung out in bookstores as a kid. I used to love to go to the book exchange on Altama Avenue and in that little Brunswick Plaza, whatever it was called at the time, right next to Rock and Easy's. Those were kind of two of my favorite places to go when I was a little kid. And the Sniglet books were there. Always there. Great novelty books. It's funny because they were like a sensation, and now I'm always interested in what survives historically and what doesn't. Like when people look back on an era and they, the things they remember from that era and the things they rhapsodize about and the things that just don't even get mentioned ever again. I don't know when the last time I heard anybody actually mention Sniglets is, but that was a very, very big deal at the time. Let's see. What do we have here? What did we grab? Oh, that's the traffic stop, Camden deputies. No mystery why young men are leaving the workforce. I don't have a lot of time left here because I do need to get going, but this is a really good piece. I feel bad that I'm not just handing you this piece today. So I'll try to do some of this because it really is. Let's see. Gen Z are an enigma to some people. Why are they whining about $20 burritos? Why are they obsessed with buying a starter home? Why aren't they dating? Yes, why aren't they dating? The typical answer is that something mucked up the natural order. Among other culprits, technology contributed to the phasing out of both old school courting rituals, say approaching a love interest at a bar, and some sectors of employment. The latest head scratcher, it seems, is where have the men gone in corporate America? The guilty parties will play dumb, but the answer is no mystery because it wasn't really a voluntary exit, was it? It was expulsion and exile. American women now hold 176,000 more payroll jobs than American men, according to the Wall Street Journal and July data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. But please, let's also, again, let's start on these big campaigns to make sure that girls know they can enter the workforce. It's the dumbest thing. We still do that kind of thing. We need to let girls know they can go into STEM. They know. They're doing it. We need to have a program to make sure girls know they can actually go to work. They're doing it. For many years, under progressive administrations and in major companies, the DEI regime has reigned. A lot of firms had either official or unofficial gender and or race targets they were striving to meet. The NASDAQ, which includes more than 3,000 major companies, had rules requiring its listees to publicly disclose diversity statistics and to have or explain why they did not have at least 2 directors who are minorities, including one who self-identifies as female. Though not a strict numerical quota, such forced diversity disclosure served as a moral litmus test for companies. Though a court eventually struck down the rules, the exchange for over 3 years signaled that females should be privileged in C-suites, not welcomed, privileged. Note, again, word usage here. That and other virtue signaling memos trickled down through the entire culture to this generation of young men. In college, I remember a male friend's frustration as he and other finance undergrads competed for a small pool of jobs while big banks clamored to fill spots with females despite their having, in his telling, less impressive applications. Before President Trump issued executive orders prohibiting DEI in the federal government, affirmative action in the awarding of government contracting was widespread, effectively a different kind of cronyism. The message was the same in college admissions. Before the Supreme Court declared affirmative action in admissions unconstitutional in 2023, colleges participated in discrimination against white men by applying racial preferences. Even now, some schools, including Duke Law, which we talked about last week, have tried to circumvent the Supreme Court's Harvard ruling via proxy discrimination, developing mechanisms to flag for ostensibly marginalized backgrounds in admissions essays and usher in minority candidates. As for women, their rising numbers in colleges were aided by the lifting of artificial caps on female enrollment. Before the 1970s, schools such as Yale University limited female enrollment to a small fraction of the class. With affirmative action in Title IX, universities dropped these ceilings and invited many new female students. However, some STEM institutions didn't just open the door, they gave favorable consideration to women to counter underrepresentation, which is what I was saying a minute ago. Girls are twice as likely as boys to get into Caltech or MIT to make up for the fact that they're half as likely to apply, the Washington Post wrote in 2024. To be fair, now that females make up nearly 60% of all college students nationwide, some colleges have allegedly practiced gender balancing in the other direction. Dubbed affirmative action for men, this isn't the way either. No, it's not. But even if female enrollees didn't technically steal spots that would otherwise go to men, the disproportionate number changed the constitution of the average college. It's not a coincidence that gender studies, which is based on the idea that the patriarchy is the root of evil in society, has exploded as a discipline across academia in the past decade. With women dominating, colleges have evolved to focus on women's concerns, as Helen Andrews wrote in her essay, The Great Feminization. Gee, maybe that was a deterrent to men. If colleges are increasingly adopting an ideological tone that treats maleness as problematic, that might chase men out or keep men away. A conscious policy choice that has displaced young men in the workforce involves legal immigration programs such as H-1B, which, aside from being a corrupt labor arrangement, takes jobs from young men in technical fields. For those who would argue that these immigrants bring special genius and expertise that Americans cannot provide, there is no highly skilled worker shortage in the United States. Rather, it's more likely that the infusion of foreign labor depresses wages for Americans, disincentivizing them from putting their STEM degrees to use or pursuing them in the first place. This is very true. We've seen it over the years. Disney did this where they brought in a bunch of H-1B people and then told the American workers they had to train them and that they were going to fire them as soon as they were done training them. And that's what happened. So if we have a shortage of workers here, and that's what the H-1B is for, is to make up for a shortage of workers, then how did we have all the workers doing the jobs in the first place? iHeart did the same thing. They outsourced all their traffic department to India. And they made all the traffic people train the Indians on how to do the job. And then they fired them. It's, so anyway, this thing raises, and it's a lot bigger. It's a lot better. I will get into more as I have time, but I don't right now. Let's see really quickly. Sniglets. Cheetle is the remnants on your fingers after eating Cheetos. Oh, very nice. Very nice. 176,000 more payroll jobs held by women. So now they're making the same as men holding jobs. Well, yeah, of course. And last but not least, because this is my final item for today before I get out of here, because we do have to get going. Ex-Southern Poverty Law Center's ringleader no-show at court as she faces charges of funneling $1.2 million to white supremacist groups. Remember when these charges were first announced and they went, oh, this is the government doing lawfare. Oh, we can't wait to get a chance to go to court and defend ourselves against these malicious false charges from the federal government because it's just lawfare. And look, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that Donald Trump's administration is not engaged in lawfare in some instances, but this one is not lawfare. This is the real deal. And I've seen other people disagree with that, but I'm sorry. I believe that this case against the SPLC is legit. And the fact that she couldn't wait for her day to go to court to defend herself against this false accusation. And then when she had her day in court, she didn't show. Now she's not been convicted. So, you can't officially say, but boy, it looks bad. It looks bad. That's all I'm going to say about it. All right. So that is going to do it, I think. Hey, don't forget about this thing. Also, there's a comedy show happening next Friday night at Soglo Gallery, the Actors Theater over there. One of our esteemed listeners, Aaron Arledge, is one of the comedians that will be in there. I have the flyer. We're going to give away some tickets to it next week at Trivia at Max, so you can do that. But it'll be out there. You should be able to go to the Soglo Theater's website and check out information there. Linda has departed the Soglo Theater, which still just blows me away because I just so associate her with that. But you know what? She decided it was time. She has done amazing work. She has put together an amazing place. It's really a neat space. And she has moved on. And in that, in the transition, there are some things happening there now, different things happening. One is a comedy show a week from this Friday at Labor Day weekend, basically at Soglo Theater. So you can check that out for yourself. All right, we got to get out of here for the day. Hope you have a wonderful day. Please stay dry. Please stay hydrated. Please have fun. And we will all reconvene tomorrow. People send me stuff all day. Don't stop sending me stuff because we'll try to work as much of it in as we can in the morning. And take care. See ya.